All right, let's get started on the euro dollar and a little bit of what we have in the works here. Euro dollar has a nice channel. I posted the chart. If you guys had a chance to see that, I posted the chart in the notes here, notes area here. You can see that I posted the chart on the euro dollar and I posted the chart on the pound yen. I think these two are pretty darn fantastic ones to be trading, and there's a few others that we're going to talk about, but particularly those two. And basically, just a reminder of what we're looking at here. Euro dollar has turned into a choppy mess for just about 2 weeks now. Just a choppy mess. Now, one thing that it's done, here's something that I posted last night, and that was kind of before this spike, and so I've changed my tune just a tiny little bit on the euro dollar, but not much. I still think we have some really excellent, fantastic things in the works here. So, number one, what we have is from this little run up here of a couple of week period, we had a 450 pip run or so on the euro dollar, kind of that choppy movement. Most of that was the FOMC news a couple of weeks ago, which spiked everything up 230 or 40 pips. We still have a gap left unfilled, and we still have a missed weekly pivot on the euro dollar. From this movement up, the euro dollar has been kind of double topping and even almost triple topping here, and it's come down, it's dipped down to the trend line slash 23% fib. So it's dipped down to both of those right there, and has not been able to cross, and has just hit that trend line, bounced off, and found some really nice support there. So that is definitely one of the reasons that this is my break zone. Anything below 134.60, I'm getting pretty darn short euro dollar, because number one, that's a good support, that's a break of the trend line, that's a break of this range, that's a lot of good stuff there, and the 23% fib, which is always great. So we break that. I'm targeting the 38% fib, which is basically 133.90. So you can see we have about 70 pips. We have a pretty easy 70 pips that we can get out of this trade. So if the euro dollar breaks that 134.60, count on a minimum of 70 pips to the downside. Just that simple. Nothing else to be said about that. 70 pips. You can count on that. Now, that's what we can count on. That's an absolute. Now, the other thing that we have here is the euro dollar has been so consolidated that if the news is big enough and some bigger crazy things happen, and maybe the government does shut down for a day or an hour or whatever, then maybe we'll get a bigger move. But we're going to run into a lot of support down here. We have the 50% fib, which overlaps support, weekly support 3, which is about 133.35-40 area. And that puts us still shy of filling this gap and just a bit shy of that weekly pivot. So that's kind of something to think about. But we could get a run if we reach that weekly pivot. We have 145 pips from the break of this 134.60 down into that weekly pivot. And I'm definitely targeting that weekly pivot. But I think we may need to just be careful with it and shoot for a 60 to 70 pip run to start, and then start looking at taking profits and re-entering at a higher price, because I think it's going to come down here and probably bounce a little bit, head back up, and we'll look at re-entering again against this high, and ultimately targeting this weekly pivot point. But I think a quick little break should get us down there to that 38% fib, which is 70 pips. Now, the other thing that I said yesterday, where I'm saying I may have changed my tune a tiny little bit, is the fact that I said I like getting short against this high as well. So I like shorting the break of 134.60, and I like shorting against 135.70 basically. And the only reason I've changed my tune a little bit there is because we still do have an uptrend, and the fact that this is bumped back up there and it's kind of looking a tiny bit on the bullish side, that makes me a tiny bit nervous. So what I would rather do is just very simply sell the break of 134.60, buy the break of 135.70. Just that simple. Because if we break that high, remember we've got, upward movement, uptrend, consolidation, nice upward movement, and then all consolidation. The euro has been totally consolidated since the Fed news, and so if we get that break of that high, then that should be a very nice continuation of a semi-bullish pattern here. But this can totally go either way, because we've got a nice double top, which gives this a great possibility to be a nice break and a move down. But likewise, we've also got an uptrend in consolidation, and if we break that double top, then that's a huge move up. So euro dollar is looking super fantastic. I mean, super fantastic. But we're going to have to break out of this range first. Unfortunately, it's not a if it sounded like I said unfortunately, I meant and fortunately, it's not a huge range. It's only 100 pips, 110 pips. So that's something that we can easily wait for. We're 50, a little over 50 pips from the top, a little over 50 pips from the bottom. I mean, we are right smack dab in the middle of this thing. And yes, that's a good point, Steve. We're pretty darn close to that big high up here, which is the high of the year. I guess we can see it better on the weekly chart, and that's 137.10, and that takes us back to the high of about January, give or take. So we're having a little bit of trouble there, but there is still an uptrend, and there is still some movement there. That's why if we break that 135.70, it should be a really nice movement up, actually, but I am looking for ultimately just one of these levels to break, and I'll trade either side. So that's going to be a pending order that we will put on moving forward here. Okay, questions, comments about that, let me know. Pound dollar is an interesting one. Pound dollar is kind of stuck here just a little bit. One thing that I did is I just drew a fib level from the low to the high, and it's still kind of creeping up a little bit, so I'm not really even super interested in those fib levels right now. One thing that I am interested in quite a good little bit, though, is the fact that we have one missed weekly pivot, two missed weekly pivots, three missed weekly pivots, and the lowest missed weekly pivot is 575 pips away. So, I mean, if my hands and arms were tied and I had to take a trade right now, I would put a pound dollar short on and forget about it and come back in 2 months and see where it was, and we'd probably be up a huge chunk. But I think there's going to be some nice shorter term trades to be taking there in the meantime. So for the meantime, I'm not doing anything on the pound dollar, and I'm waiting for opportunities to short this pair. The one thing that we can do is probably watch some of these shorter time frames and these shorter ranges and channels and so on, and just look for breaking of the range, look for some of that movement down below, that kind of stuff. Is kind of what I'm looking for. This little area right here, you saw that little spike. It went just kind of through that area, and then we came back around this. This is around the 161.75-ish area. We start breaking below that, and we may have a nice opportunity to trade down into that weekly pivot, which is a little over 60 pips away. So anyway, the pound dollar is looking like a good run, and with 3 missed weekly pivots now, I am absolutely looking for opportunities to get short in this pair. It's just I don't know where I want to get short yet, and it's not giving us a good enough setup, so I'm hanging tight on that one. Aussie dollar. Now, one thing to remember, I forgot to bring this little deal up, but we have a lot of news out this week, and depending, we may or may not have non-farm payroll this Friday. It's gonna be a wait and see, just a hair. But non-farm payroll possibly this Friday. Thursday we've got some pretty good stuff. We've got a little bit of ISM for the U.S., unemployment claims, all the basic stuff. Wednesday we've got the ADP, which we always have when we have non-farm payroll. We have European interest rate announcements. So ECB press conference is happening. We've got Bernanke speaking. Wednesday's going to be a big day, so just count on that being craziness. More ISM stuff on Tuesday, but stuff that's going to immediately affect us will be Aussie dollar business, which we have the interest rate announcement for Australia, which is expected to remain as is. And we have the rate statement all around 9:30 p.m. chat time. So that's going to be a pretty big mover, so keep an eye on that. But we have lots of news going into Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and so on. But keep an eye on all of these Aussie pairs because the interest rate news is going to be a pretty big deal. So I'm going to show you the levels that we'll be watching for there. Probably, David, the rest of the news sites that will give you anything any faster are going to be paid services. So Twitter's good. You can follow a couple of the news sources on Twitter, and they actually produce it pretty quickly. But as far as Forex Factory goes, now on Forex Factory, by the way, just a little side note, when you go to Forex Factory, and 5 minutes. I'm sure you guys have all seen this. This is just a little heads up. I think it's exactly 5 minutes before the news comes out. If you refresh your page 5 minutes before, where the actual number column is, they'll put that little green circular arrow, and then you can just start hitting refresh on that, instead of having to refresh the whole page. Because if you have to refresh the whole page, it's crashing and making kind of a mess and all that, because everyone's trying to do the same thing. So if you just refresh the page 5 minutes before the news, you'll see that little green arrow, and then you can get a little quicker version of it. But anything faster than that's going to be is going to be a paid service. Okay, here's what we're looking for in the Aussie dollar coming into the news. This is going to be a big deal. A break of this high here, I'm going to go long. A break of this low, I'm going to go short. Any questions? Okay, I'll go into a little more detail, but that's honestly really it. That's all I'm looking for on this Aussie dollar is if that high right there, which we made a high right at the 200 moving average on the 1 hour chart, that is 93.53. We break that, I'm long. I'm headed up. I'm just headed up. I don't know where we're going, but we're headed up. We've got a nice uptrend, and this has been kind of a long-term bull flaggy kind of situation. So we break that. That's a pretty solid level to put a pending order to a nice little buy stop to get long and trade this pair. At least up to some of these other levels. I think we have an easy 50 pips in a movement above 93.53 on the Aussie dollar. Now, below 92.80, this level has given us some interesting movement quite over the last little bit. We have a nice gap that we need to fill here below this 92.80. We do have the 200 moving average, but remember, news can cause some pretty tough things to happen there. The moving average, the 200 moving average there is about 27 pips below our double bottom. Remember, this is the low of 2 weeks ago, and then it's the low of this week right here. So these two right here are going to give you nice opportunities to sell the break if the news comes out bearish for the Aussie dollar. So watch for a break of 92.80. We should, again, anticipate some support, some tough levels down here around the 92.50 area. But ultimately, we're looking for that move down into that missed weekly pivot, which is 145 pips away, right down there around 91.50. 55 area. So that's going to be the big one to watch for. And I'm going to post all these channels for everyone to see, but these are going to be the big deals to keep an eye on coming up into the Aussie news. So let's keep our eyes and ears open for that, and we'll see where that goes. But it's all about 93.53 and 92.80. Nothing too, just Aussie yen. The yen pairs are not exciting me too much. Aussie yen, pound yen, dollar yen, Aussie yen, euro yen, dollar yen aren't too exciting. Pound yen is incredibly exciting. I think this pound yen is fantastically setting up and ready to rock and roll. So what we have here on the pound yen is I'm definitely watching this 159 kind of 25 area. We broke out of this little descending area. We have a huge bullish engulfing candle on this daily chart. That's a big one. So more likely than not, that's going to lead us to a break of this high, which is 159.99. So we're just going to call that 160. We break that 160, you can see that we have to go all the way out to the monthly chart to get any interesting view of anything here. So that 160 has been a pretty tough one. That's been a pretty tricky one, and the next level we have above 160 is 163. So we've got 300 good pips to go if we break 160, and I have a feeling we're probably going to break 160. But again, we don't have to guess. I don't have to guess. You don't have to guess. All we have to do is wait for either a break of 157.30 or a break of 160. Now, obviously, 160 is quite a bit closer. That's only 80 pips away, so there's a good possibility of that one. And 157.30 is now 180 pips away. So that one's a good little distance, but still, nice little move on that. We have at least 2 missed weekly pivots on the pound yen, so this level is going to break sooner than later, or at some point it's going to break, and it might be sooner, it might be later, I don't know, but we're just watching for it. So 157.30 is the level to watch on the pound yen. Likewise, 160 is a good level to watch as well. You may be able to get a little bit of short-term activity above 159.25, but I'm probably not going to mess with that. I'm honestly interested very, very little in messing with any of these pairs inside of these ranges. I'm just waiting for the ranges to break, and we've got some very, very nice ranges that will break, one side or the other coming up. Tom, don't even sweat it. Don't even worry about it. Thanks for posting those. I do appreciate it. And we have some nice we will have some nice missed pivot levels to aim for as well. So since I've gone through a couple of pairs, just kind of wait till those pivot points come out and watch for that. But like I said, I don't want to trade too many of these pairs in the middle of the range because I think it's going to be kind of a mess. Now you can see here that just for example, since we're on the pound yen, 158 about 50 give or take, 158.60 we'll just say. Is going to be the missed pivot for today, and that's 50 pips below current price. So there might be a good little opportunity to short there. But really what I'm looking for, once again, is the break of the higher lows of these ranges. Euro dollar has a great range. Pound dollar, again, we're still waiting on that one. Aussie dollar has a great range. Pound yen has a great range. And going on to a couple of other pairs you'll see have good ranges. Again, I'm not interested in anything on the Aussie yen, Euro yen right now. Gold's kind of all over the place. There's some good stuff going on there. But the CAD is another great one that I think is going to have a nice little breakout. We've had this range stuck here. Like I said, we might have had a really long extended inverted head and shoulders pattern. We'll see how this plays out. But really all I care about right now is if we break below 102.70, I'm short dollar CAD, and I'm trading it at least down to these lows, which is a nice 85 pip run. If we break 103.40, which is this high, then I'm targeting this missed weekly pivot, which is 100 pips. Now we're going to have the 200 moving average in there, which is going to cause a little bit of grief, and we will keep an eye on that. But it's all looking pretty good. And this right here definitely looks like we have a little bit of a daily pin bar in the works as we tried to make our way down and just touch that 200 moving average on the daily chart. And now it looks like it's headed way back up. So 104.30. I'm going to try that again. 103.40 is going to be a great level to break and a nice little move into that missed weekly pivot. So as you can see, we have tons and tons and tons of setups with 50 and anywhere from 50 to 200 pip profit potentials. So dollar CAD's definitely one of those as well. Euro pound, still have lots of missed weekly pivots on this euro pound. Well, maybe not lots, but we have at least one. And it's a ways back here. It's still a good little chunk back, 190 pips, which is nice. Not doing anything with that one yet. Euro Aussie's a great little mover here. Going into the weekend, Thursday wrap-up session, I said simply what you have to do is buy the break of 144.55 on Euro Aussie. Buy the break of 144.55. Just do that, and the rest are details. And guess what? It broke, and it ran up 100 pips. So I sincerely hope that everybody bought the break of 144.55 on the Euro Aussie. Now what we have, if you did not buy the break and you're hating your life because you missed that nice little move and it's playing out nicely, here is another range that we can probably trade going into the Aussie news. I'm not super comfortable on this Euro Aussie trading the break of this high. I think the high is a little bit, it's kind of far away. I don't know, maybe it's not super far away, but it's not a really significant level beyond just being the high. Now it is the high of Friday, which I do like, but there's no other resistance levels that are super interesting to me on that upper area, so that's why I'm kind of just a little bit on the fence there. But breaking that high, 145.50, 560 area, the high is basically 145.58. Break of that high, and we can keep targeting the highs here. We can target weekly resistance 1, which is 100 pips up there. We can target our missed weekly pivot, which is 200 plus pips up there. I think that one's pretty good. One level that I do think is great, though, is 144.55, the same level we talked about. If we break below that, I think we have a minimum of 50 to 60 pips coming up with the Aussie news. So be ready on this one. Again, I don't love, but I think it's tradable, the break of 145.58. I do think it's absolutely tradable, the break of 144.50, 55 area. So this is going to be a great range coming up to the news as well. and that's again with Australian news tonight, so that's going to be a big deal. Last but not least, we're still looking for some nice opportunities and trades here. It's getting a little choppy and messy on this Euro Aussie, Euro New Zealand. We have some big missed weekly pivots still, and I think we're going to get there. Remember that on this big rundown, we've crossed the 23% fib several times and have closed below it and above it, and so I'm just looking for that opportunity to get long into that 38% fib, and I think we're going to get there, and I think it is going to happen, so I'm just kind of waiting on that. So pairs to focus on: Euro dollar, big focus; Aussie dollar, big focus; pound yen, big focus; dollar CAD, big focus, but probably tomorrow morning; Euro Aussie, big focus, and we're going to be paying attention to the Euro New Zealand. But really great setups. There's nothing else I'm looking at. I'm just going to stick with those 6 pairs right now. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but there's some really great setups on those 6 pairs. So I hope you guys are very ready for those. The pips are going to be amazing. There's really tons and tons of profit to be had there. So I'm just trading simple breakouts. I have made my most successful, high profitable trades in breakouts, in just trading breakouts. And we have absolutely perfect breakouts to be trading over the next 1 to 2 days. So I am beyond excited about these moves. So it's going to be time to just set pending orders and let these markets rock and roll. So I'm going to update the notes with all these channels and all these ranges, and I'm going to post this video so you guys can see it and review it. And I will post as many pending orders as possible, but I urge you guys to be very proactive and watch these levels and be able to trade these yourselves and make some pips off them. So great setups in the works. I am going to put the recording up right now. Questions, comments, shoot them on over.